Brennan,
Here.
Winslow,
Present.
Jason,
Present.
Garrett,
Here.
Hoffman,
Here.
Jordan,
Here.
Lumber.
Here. Okay, public comments. Anybody online or in the audience that wishes to make a comment? Second time, anybody online or in the audience? Anybody on, or is Michael running the show? Oh, anybody online that's got their hand up? No. All right. Hearing none, we're going to move on to minutes from previous meetings. Item number 3, minutes from the May 8th, 2023 joint PC and ETZ meeting. Motion by Deason. Second. Second by Mumper. On the question, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So carried. Communications, disclosures, and recusals. Members of the body should make any required disclosures of recusals during this time. Item number 4, written communications received. Looks like we have one.
No, that's for Project Timberwolf.
Oh, okay.
I think everything that we got was included in the packet. Or you received via email.
Okay. So nothing else there. Moving on, we'll move to public hearings. Zoning map and text amendments, conditional uses and related requests. Project number 2023-0138, Debbie Joswick, 9897 Siberian Drive, Weston, Wisconsin, 54476, PIN number 192-2808-322-0006, requesting a conditional use permit to allow for the use of an accessory dwelling unit on a property zoned SFS, single family residential small lot. I'll open the public hearing and presentation by applicant and or staff.
Yeah, so Debbie's looking to convert a existing 16 by 20 detached garage. It's in the backyard of her daughter's property. There would be a 12 by 6 addition onto the front of it, which would remove the garage door. That's where the bathroom would essentially be. Debbie is here to answer any questions you may have. Being a detached garage and it not being built to UDC standards for a livable structure, there's a lot of work that needs to go into it. And she is aware of that, and she's had talks with our building inspectors and a lot of contractors regarding the work. And I should note that a lot of building permits will be pulled and issued for this project, and that'll have Roman and Travis, our building inspectors, on site to ensure that the end product is indeed a UDC code compliant livable structure. Yeah, she's just looking to be closer to the grandkids and help out, help combat the cost of daycare. You know, like I stated, she is here if you have any further questions for her. Otherwise, I did include pretty much everything that was submitted in the packet, and the project narrative does go in depth about the performance standards and how it meets. And I did have Debbie answer the supplemental questions, which should also be attached in there.
Debbie, would you like to step up and add any comments to that? Just come up here and with the microphone, you wouldn't mind stating your name and address? That's okay.
The one thing that I did just talk with Aaron about is on the front of the garage where the garage door was, I was gonna bring a smaller roof out. But for more stability for the slab that's going in there for the bathroom, I'm going to add on to the existing roof with roof trusses so we can get adequate insulation up there also. So the drawing that I did for Aaron was a little off, but
Still the same footprint.
it's the same thing, but it would be more structurally safe to have that come out from the roof.
And all that will be addressed when building permits are pulled in.
Yes.
Roman and Travis will ensure that. I should also know, I didn't mention, but the current structure does meet the setbacks required by the performance standards. It needs to meet detached structure setback, so it'd be 6 feet from the rear there and 6 feet from the side, which it does, and that is shown on the site plan. I guess I should know, I did have a neighbor reach out to me via email with some concerns, and I did carbon copy you guys in on it. So hopefully you had a chance to take a look at my responses and the questions that were brought up by Mr. Mike Murphy. And I did have one other phone call with another resident who wasn't in the same neighborhood, but he had some concerns about it becoming a future rental. And that was something that Mike also brought up. So I did throw that in there as a recommended condition. But that's kind of ultimately up to you. I don't, the more I think about it, I don't know if that's maybe something that should be implemented or not, because technically if you say that this shouldn't be used as a future rental, I guess a future owner could rent out the basement of the house, and how is that really any different than something in the backyard? So I guess I'll leave that up to you if you want to implement that condition on not being able to be used as a rental for future and current owners.
And there now are a few people online.
There are. Does anybody have any questions specifically for Debbie?
Parking, I seen an overhead view. Looks like it must be an attached 2-car garage. Obviously, you're probably not gonna walk, right? So you got a car somewhere that would just park in the driveway?
In the driveway.
We have a gate that opens to the backyard, so.
The whole backyard is fenced.
It sure is fully fenced in.
My question would come up with, you've got a slab on grade that's floating, and typically in house construction, you have frost walls that eliminate any heaving or anything like that. I guess that would be a concern with bringing plumbing back there, because you've got a floating slab. That slab's gonna move. So how are you gonna control that? I guess what construction are you gonna do to shore that up so that?
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually attach that with a rebar to the existing slab. And it's gonna be a 10-inch, it's gonna be 10-inch deep slab by 6 by, I believe it was 12. By 6 by 12.
Yeah, Roman would have the answer to that. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but
You're talking about the existing slab though, right?
Just the structure in general. I mean, we've got frost walls. We live in Wisconsin, stuff moves. And when you start bringing plumbing back there, I mean, whether it be your water lines or your sewer lines, if that slab's gonna move, which, I mean, all of our approaches move in our house that are pinned or slabs that are frost walls down on the ground, that stuff still moves. So if my opinion, and purely my opinion, but if that's not some sort of frost wall or something there's gonna be a plumbing issue down the road, and it's gonna happen.
Well, I'm not a contractor and I'm not a plumbing contractor, but what you're saying, and this is just for my information so that I understand, you're thinking that we need a 4-foot wall.
I'm just asking the
ground
question.
for a frost.
I'm just asking the question because, again,
But would that be proper construction? as far as-
all the houses, and everything that are built sit on a frost wall of some point. Yes.
Mhm, okay,
And the reason they sit on that is to reduce movement, things like that.
yep.
I know Roman had discussions with Debbie in regards to frost protecting that existing slab. And that was something that was brought up there. And Roman knows all the specifics on what needs to happen in terms of frost protecting that slab, because that's step number 1 here. But I'm not familiar with what state code requires, and he certainly is, and he's the one that's going to ensure that it is up to code like it needs to be a livable structure.
Mark?
Well, I mean, would a licensed plumber, would they not know that? Would they actually plumb a slab like that? We're talking about coming from underground, correct? I mean, if they knew that that was a possibility, would they not even do it?
I think before we get too far off in the weeds here too, I think we got to remember, this is just to say she can do it.
Okay.
I think after this, it's up to Roman and the contractors and everybody to
Oh, you're right.
to get that figured out, so. Just to kind of bring everybody back here. Are you, so this isn't gonna be used as like I think that letter that you sent out indicated that it was gonna be used as a daycare or.
When he asked what the use of it was, I said family, because Debbie wants to be closer to her grandkids to combat the cost of daycare. I think he took it as she was gonna be running a daycare, which is not true. No kids are gonna be
She's
dropped
just
off
on site.
at the site. Yeah.
They live in the backyard.
Yeah, so it's nothing to do with actual daycare services or anything like
That,
that.
and it'll allow my daughter to have time to finish her degree too also, because when you keep track of 2 children, it's a little tough to get and work full time to get the rest of the degree done, and I want her to get that 3rd degree that she needs.
Anybody have anything else for Debbie or staff?
I'm not opposed to it. I would just. I had a brief conversation with Roman here earlier today, and it does sound like, yeah, this thing really does have to meet 2023 building code. So just like you're gonna build a new house. So we gotta have R49 in the ceiling and R19 in the walls for insulation. You've gotta have a vapor barrier under the slab. And if you don't, then you gotta do a different outfit with the existing slab and changing roof lines and stuff. I just wonder if you're getting these bids and estimates to have this done, because you're not doing it yourself, right?
Oh, God, no.
Contract to do it.
I'm getting estimates and they're all licensed, and I've already run them all through Roman, and he said,
Yep, and that's good. I'm just wondering if you may explore the idea of this is 392 square feet or wherever the number is. You may be more cost effective to knock this thing down and build a new one, slab on grade, or with a frost wall. If you've got to physically change everything that's there, all you're saving is 2x4s that you have to pour out the 2x6s to meet the insulation code. Like, I don't know what you're saving by saving that structure, but that's up to you. That's not up to me. I'm not spending your money. But you may be more cost effective. I would explore that option.
Again, the whole.
I will talk to my contractor about that. That is a possibility.
So again, the whole point of this is to determine if she can do it. And after
Correct.
that.
Yeah.
It's gonna be up to our code guys or our
Yeah.
building guys to all that, or to inspect that. So.
All
As long
right,
as it meets building code, I'm not opposed to it. I don't think there's a problem. I wouldn't want to see people living in there now.
There's spiders out there.
all right. So we'll move along here. Public comment period. If nothing else for Debbie specifically. Is there anybody online or in the audience that wishes to make a comment on this? Second time, anybody online or in the audience that wishes to make a comment? Everyone can get their hand up. Nobody online or in the audience that wishes to make a comment? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Recommendation from staff.
Staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit with the following conditions.
Okay, and discussion and action by the plan commission. What's your pleasure? We do. I don't know if there was any further discussion that needed to take place before that, or. we did move forward with that. Okay. Termination number 1, is the proposed conditional use consistent with the comprehensive plan, this chapter and all other plans, programs and ordinances?
Yes.
Yes. Item number 2, the proposed conditional use in its proposed location and as depicted on the required site plan will not result in a substantial or undue adverse impact on nearby property, the neighborhood, environmental factors, traffic factors, parking, public improvements, public property, or rights of way, or other matters affecting the public health, safety, or general welfare, either as they now exist or as they may in the future be developed as a result of the implementation of the provisions of this chapter, the comprehensive plan, or all other plans, programs, and ordinances adopted by the village. Yes. Does the proposed conditional use maintain the desired consistency of land uses, land use intensities, and land use impacts as related to the environs of the subject property? Yes. Is the proposed conditional use located in an area that will be adequately served by and will not impose an undue burden on any of the improvements, facilities, utilities, or services provided by public agencies serving the subject property?
Yes.
Yes. Do the potential public benefits of the proposed conditional use outweigh potential adverse impacts of the proposed conditional use after taking into consideration the applicant's proposal and any requirements recommended by the applicant to ameliorate such impacts? Yes. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve this as presented with the caveat of the staff in particular, I guess, making sure that all things are up to code and up to specs.
Well, second. There were a number of different conditions added to this. Do we want to include any of those in the motion?
I recommend it to be included.
Make that motion then that they be included, please.
Second that,
Okay, so you're,
I'm seconding the amendment.
Dave, we're amending your motion, so
Please.
just for clarification, you want to include all of the conditions that are listed on staff.
I think we should, yes.
Okay. So voting on the amendment, motion by Deason, second by Pincinot. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? So carried. Now voting on the motion with the amendment. Motion made by Deason, second by Jordan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? So carried. Is that easy? All good to go.
Let's go get some supper. No. All right, I will be in touch with Roman. We'll figure out the concrete thing. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Debbie. Item number 6, project number 2023-0040, Project Timberwolf. 7007 County Road J, conditional use permit request for the temporary use of a relocatable building to allow for operations to while the distribution center is being constructed. In number 192-2808-244-0991. I'll open the public hearing. Presentation by applicant and or staff.
Take it away. Michael's gonna pull up a quick presentation that has a little bit more details likely than what you've seen in the packet. So hopefully they clear up anything. Perfect. All right. Hi, Greg Koziel, Ambrose Property Group, 888 Keystone Crossing, Indianapolis, Indiana. Here to talk to you about the conditional use permit request for early deployment operations on Project Timberwolf. This is located at 7007 County Road J, Weston, Wisconsin. Next slide. So I just wanted to talk to you specifically about the request for permitting, the discussions we've had with staff already, and what we're trying to achieve. We'll go through the conditional use request, a summary behind what we're trying to achieve, and the proposed design. It's still in flux, but right now we're just requesting use on site ahead of building operations. So just for an overview and a summary of what we've already discussed in the previous months, we are proposing the current development as you see here, 16.58 acres, a 79,000 square foot facility, including auto, van, and trailer parking, and a private access road. That's what we're showing here on Christie Lane. It will not be specifically called Christie Lane, but a private access to the facility for trailer traffic. Just for everyone's understanding, the timing of the completion of this project will be Q4 of 2024. And we're working through right now. It's currently under site plan review. We have a few documents just sent over today, and we'll talk through site plan review later on. But we'll also be working with the DNR for permitting the wetlands and the stormwater design by the end of July of this year. So we're proceeding on design, wetlands coordination, and building and state permitting here shortly. All of the limited industrial zoning setbacks, heights, aesthetics will be achieved. So next slide. Going into the early deployment operations, this is what was shared with you in your packet. This is something that's been proposed on a current site plan that you've seen and that is currently under review. So the grade in area, I'll just kind of go through bullet point by bullet point. We're seeking conditional use permit of the early deploy operations. And the idea is to accelerate our users' need to service the village of Weston this year. We won't be done with the building property until Q4 of next year. We'd like to have this facility in location underway by this year, serving the community. The temporary operations will include delivery and receipt of packages prior to the building being completed. So during construction, this will be operational. The grading area, as you see here, will accommodate private user traffic, contained and controlled, separate from construction traffic. That is our goal. Includes non-occupied storage, covered tenting, secured 8-foot fence with scrim and gate to provide aesthetically pleasing look and feel. And then all necessary code requirements for lighting, power, signage, and security will be met. The proposed traffic, as you see there, we show line hauls coming in off the private drive, then backing into the storage area. We have a tented area for employees to operate with inside that light blue area as shown. So you see traffic flows from County Road J onto our private drive. All trailers will be during non-peak hours, as we discussed previously, for traffic. And then employees will access the storage containment for delivery. If you go to the next slide, in detail, this will show kind of a different view of what we're proposing. In the graded area at the top right corner is temporary facilities we'll have for employees that are there. We'll have storage containers just right below to the right, and a tent-in area that backs up to the trailer line hauls. So it's a fully serviced operation, non-occupied storage, and those parking areas will be for flex delivery. It's surrounded by an 8-foot fence, kind of bordered right there. Kind of shows the height we discussed earlier. We're trying to achieve all code requirements for snow loading and limits for height restrictions in the LI district. So I propose this is going to be 20 to 25 feet tall and 45 feet wide. This is the tented in area. And I'll show on the next slide, it kind of shows an image of what this could look like. Oh, I went ahead of myself. We actually have developed a lot of coordination with utilities in the underground system. Something that we've been working with also with our stormwater. This is kind of why that process has been delayed. We've shifted that around the site in the blue in area, and we're coordinating around our utilities alignment to get this up and running as fast as possible. The idea is to get it up and running in November of this year while we work through site construction through those utilities, blue, green, and red, and the blued-in stormwater detention system. So a lot to coordinate around, but we'll have this stoned in, bindered, asphalt down, and then secured before operations commence. This is not exactly what it would look like, but very similar to what the vendor has provided in the past. You'll see a line hauls backed up to a staged dock that's 4 or 5 feet off the ground with a ladder and some conveyance coming off that. The request today, I know we saw staff's review, and we appreciate their review ahead of time. We're asking for the temporary use permit to be in place 120 days after the building is complete. Just due to the operations of the user, it's just not a seamless process. So we'll want that permit to be in place while they get the building up and running, and then we dismantle the operations and then finish the site. There's kind of an overlap there. Happy to answer any questions. More that was in the packet. Yes.
Well, you kept talking about a 8-foot fence, but you really don't know where that's going to go because of the wetland DNR.
Oh, happy to discuss that. The wetlands are on the southern portion of our site, the southern and eastern portion of our site. So that has been delineated.
It has been.
Yeah.
We got that.
That was one of the things I passed out. We just got a copy of that.
So we had Star Environmental provide the delineation on June 1st. That has been delayed just due to the spring being so cold. So we've gotten that pushed forward, and that has not really changed too much of our site plan. It may alter some of the spacing of our southern van parking, and we'll work through that and we'll get you those details when that happens, but nothing in the north side. So wetlands are, this is ideally where it's going to be placed, as it just provides less conflict with the construction of our site. And as you see, we've done a lot of utility coordination and stormwater coordination to date in those blue and green highlighted areas.
This would anticipate if the main construction is hopefully completed Q4 of 24, this would be here 120 days, so until Q1 of 25. Or until the beginning of Q2 of 25.
The most we would ask for by the end of 24. So, yeah, I think that we're trying to pull that up, the building completion date, but I think by the end of 2024, we would ask that we wouldn't need it anymore. Yeah.
And are you trying to get a binder course on the parking
Yes.
this fall and then finish this with the second course next spring?
Yes. I think that's the best path forward. We'll get something temporary that meets code that we can drive on, that's safe. Adequate stone, and we can work
You know,
through
it's
that.
done in this country.
We'll try to meet all expectations of what that subsurface would look like. But that is our intent right now, to get it up and running as soon as possible.
Anybody have anything else? All right, hearing none, I'm going to move on to the public comments. Is there anybody online or in the audience that wishes to make a comment on this matter? Second time, anybody online or in the audience? Third time, anybody online or in the audience that wishes to make a comment? Michael, nobody?
No hands are up now.
Okay. I'm gonna close the public hearing. Recommendation from staff.
Staff recommends approval. I did put some conditions that would be listed in the conditional use permit that are based off of the performance standards. And then I did have that question on how long you wanted this to be issued for. So that's your purview. And then the last one is just any other conditions that you feel necessary after you've heard everything. It's pretty basic. It'll just be there temporarily. I guess the big thing for me was just that it, comes down at some point.
You want to stay up for a minute?
Is there an occupancy permit for a temporary building, Jim?
We talked about basically because it has to meet, we'll give it like a building permit so that because it has to go through and meet all the regulations. So we'll give it one and then it's basically your conditional use, and then it'll have an expiration based off of the other occupancy. So, I mean, we can issue like a temporary occupancy. That's usually what we do.
Yeah, my only concern is water bathroom facilities for your staff. I mean, so how are you going to accommodate that in a temporary building? Are you gonna have like outdoor outhouses or?
Yeah, like a trail, like one of those nicer trailers instead of the blue rooms. Like one of a larger trailer temporary facility. That's water, direct water hookup and power.
And you're gonna run this through the winter?
That's the intent. Some of
You make some pretty nice
Really?
trailers.
They have showers.
Those are intense, very, very nice.
They're beautiful, Joe. You should check them out.
I'm serious, they
We
are.
use them at events like the festivals. They have them out there. They're
Very,
like
very nice.
bathrooms.
You make a good point, though. That's something.
Good to go. All right.
The whole-
Do we need an occupancy permit for a temporary structure?
I was shocked.
We would it would go off of he would issue a building permit. I don't know if we have a temporary occupancy, so that's probably what we would treat it.
I mean,
don't know, we've never done
For,
one.
as someone who puts tents up for a living, I guess I'm just wondering, we don't require that for anybody else, so. Why, I guess I'm just wondering why the ask is.
It's up to you guys. For a relocatable building, we probably wouldn't have one. It would just get the temporary use. That's what we're gonna issue, so.
And this isn't a standard issue tent, right? This is one of those prefab.
Yeah,
It's a structure,
It's a big.
structure tent.
It would get issued a temporary use permit and it would be tied to the conditional use permit.
Okay,
So your deadlines, whatever you decide to put on there.
good.
Yeah, the only thing that would matter to me is a time contingency. That you do in fact follow through and get this done in a timely manner.
Yeah, it's Ambrose's goal to get the building up and operational by 2024. That's our main goal. This is something temporary, obviously our users asked for. But we're gonna achieve that goal in 2024 and then get this dismantled and the building operational as soon as possible.
And you have, I mean, if everything that you've said falls into place, you've got the final course on the parking lots and all of that all lined up for when spring breaks.
I think it would be somewhere in June, if not sooner. Yeah, I think mid-May would be the last few things that we wrap up on the site. I'm hoping to get the building up and operational and, stored with user packages and things like that, just their use. So that timing is still being worked out, but yeah, as soon as asphalt plants open up, we're looking to shut that down and get the building up and operational.
Get any construction delays? Does 2 years give you adequate time to complete?
That's why we have that overlap, just in case. That's what we're thinking through as we work through this. This is something new. So just having a little cushion for us, and that permit just doesn't go away once we get occupancy. So yeah, we're hoping that we don't run into delays, but we know.
Just a question for staff then, can you clarify number 3? Where it says or after 1?
That was just suggestions, so he's requesting that basically you disregard that and go with the occupancy. So 120 days after Roman gives occupancy
Oh,
to the main building,
It's-
then they would take down, because they would have some time to move things in between, so. And I wasn't sure what you guys wanted to do in time frame wise. I just wanted a time frame.
So I have a question. If this is going to be asphalted and over the area for your stormwater management, how do you propose to do that?
Just to the left on the plan, if we could pull that up again, I could show it. The blued in area in the box is the stormwater area. So it's just unaffected as of now. So we're gonna try and get everything done, piped in as we can. That has a lead time of 12 to 16 weeks. Once we get something from ADS.
Contact system or something?
Yeah, so we're trying to avoid it, put in the site where it's unaffected by the area for the early deployment, so.
So you're able to, that's what the question is. So that stormwater is between there and the road, the contact system is?
Yes.
That'll go in before this fall.
It will go in before this fall, but
Okay.
I think that we will, and I'll work with my contractors on this, we'll get this operational before then. Or right around the same time period. If we, this could have a 20-week lead time, so just dependent on that.
Yeah, because I'm assuming that's the first thing that DNR wants is the stormwater management in place before you start.
Yeah, which we just received the plans today, so Michael will look at them, and then they've gone to the DNR too, so.
The stormwater management plans are fine. It's just a matter of if they're able to get to the contact system before the building started, or if they have to disrupt, when your semi-traffic is going to run piping across to get to the contact system, because that's not a small task either.
No, it's not. This was the attempt to do that coordination here. So we're still working out the final design of the stormwater was recently done. So this is kind of the proposed area. So that's something that we're obviously working through. We're trying to avoid it. We need that private drive done, and we need the utilities not to conflict with that area as well. So we're out of it by November. We're not going in that red area. Good call.
Ready to do the determination? Anybody got anything else? No? All right, number 1 is the proposed conditional use consistent with the comprehensive plan, this chapter, and all other plans, programs, and ordinances adopted by the village.
Yes.
Yes. The proposed conditional use in its proposed location and as depicted on the required site plan will not result in a substantial or undue adverse impact on nearby property, the character of the neighborhood, environmental factors, traffic factors, parking, public improvements, public property, or rights of way, or other matters affecting the public health, safety, or general welfare, either as they now exist or as they may in the future be developed as a result of the implementation of the provisions of this chapter, the comprehensive plan, or all other plans, programs, and ordinances adopted by the village.
Yes.
Yes. Does the proposed conditional use maintain the desired consistency of land uses, land use intensities, and land use impacts as related to the environs of the subject property?
Yes.
Yes.
Is the proposed conditional use located in an area that will be adequately served by and will not impose an undue burden on any of the improvements, facilities, utilities, or services provided by public agencies serving the subject property?
Yes.
Do the potential public benefits of the proposed conditional use outweigh potential adverse impacts of the proposed conditional use after taking into consideration the applicant's proposal and any requirements recommended by the applicant to ameliorate such impacts?
Yes.
Yes. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the conditional use permit for Project Timberwolf as presented, including conditions 1, 2, and 4, and a modification to 3 to state that it expires 120 days after main facility occupational permit issuance.
Second.
Motion by Mumper, second by Deason. On the question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So carried. Was a very well worded motion.
Way to go, Roy.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are you hanging around for the next agenda item? Okay, I'm just making sure.
Did not, this one again, so, yeah.
Yeah, you can stay up there if you want. The clock's still running.
Great. New business, project number 20230040, site plan approval for project Timberwolf 7007, County Road J, Weston, Wisconsin 54476, pin number 192-2808-244-0991.
So this comes to Plan Commission because the board has authorized the use of TIF assistance for this project. So you guys get to review and you're the site plan approval authority. There are a few items that are kind of still hanging out there, but we wanted to get it in front of you because for the main part is your overall is the look of the building, you know, site layout, things like that. We don't think a whole lot of it's gonna change except for maybe a little bit of the parking area, like Greg said, due to the wetlands, and, you know, any remediation that they may have to take to do that. We could bring that back later. We just didn't want to hold up the project and wanted to get it in front of you because we had the majority of it basically fleshed out as staff. So there were a few items that we're still kind of hanging out there that we've actually received since then. I did give you a copy of the document. We did get the wetland delineation, and in there was a document from the DNR stating that they basically had approvals to move forward at the village level. But they still needed to go through their permitting. So they will, you know, have to still do the permitting with the DNR for the project. One thing that we should probably discuss is the need for a bike rack. The code requires it. I don't think they need as many as the code would require. So I'm just suggesting that they have something for somebody to ride there. So maybe 1 or 2. And at the time that I wrote this, we did not have the stormwater management plan yet. That did come in today. And then we would still need the NOI from the DNR when they get that. So.
What was that last one?
It's a notice of intent. It's the DNR's approval of their stormwater plan. So Michael has not seen it. I just got it this afternoon. And so he'll have to review that. But from, if you want to flip through building elevations, if, you know, basically the site meets setbacks. The parking, we could probably talk about that a little bit. It meets the needs for the amount of employees that they have, but because of the amount of vans that they're using, there is a lot of parking on there. But we as staff looked at it as basically that's kind of more or less their yard, storage yard. It's no different than Lake Sutton Transport or Crystal Finishing and their use of semi-trailers at their site. So I don't know if you guys have any questions, but I did give you a copy to a link that had they've got very detailed plans. It's probably the best plans I've ever seen actually in my 20 years here. So
Wait till you see the building.
yeah.
So when you said bike racks and you said we probably have more.
So the way that the code reads is you have to have so many bike racks per parking stalls, and so
Right.
it would require quite a few within the parking stalls.
What did the staff have like a number that they?
Well,
thought-
I was just suggesting like one or two of the
And how
U
many,
shape.
how many bike racks, when you say one or two, how many, if you have one rack, how many bikes hold in a rack?
I don't even know.
That's what you buy. You can buy one for one. You can
Yeah,
buy
it
one for
depends on
100
what
and one.
it is.
Okay.
They're usually like U-shaped, like we've got one out here. So it depends how they set it up.
Did you have a number of how many bike racks you think you're gonna need?
No, but we're happy to accommodate local code.
Yeah, I didn't make him change the site plan just for that, so I just thought we could discuss here.
We'll determine the placement that makes the most sense, but that's no problem at all.
Does the employee get a bonus for bringing a bike instead of using a parking stall?
I think they may.
It's number only.
Where's your snow storage area? Is that listed on here?
Don't have it listed on there, no. Would you like it listed on the site plan?
Yeah, is that a requirement for you?
Is.
Yeah, we typically think in this case that it's usually trucked off when we see landscape plans like this. So,
Yeah. We can add that.
Yeah, if you could.
Expensive to truck it off.
That's a lot of snow to move.
That's a lot of snow.
Islands plow around.
Your anticipation to likely have all of these stalls filled, or would there be space in this parking lot
There's
to store snow?
likely in the auto parking, there will be adequate area. That's on the northern end. So while we do show, call it 170 autos, I think that there's going to be an area that will be used for snow. On the southern area, due to the wetland impact or the wetland delineation, we changed that slightly and shortened it up a little bit. That area, yep, highlighted right there. So we are getting rid of some of those islands, as you just called out, to accommodate just more parking and shortening up the site. The van parking stays the same, 234 on the southern end, but just get rid of some of those landscape islands and still meets the adequate code for landscaping.
Snow's piled on the northern end. Is that gonna be a visual hazard?
Well, I'm sorry, Roy, what did you ask?
Is that gonna be a visual hazard?
If it's,
If it's to the north?
Snow?
Yeah, or if people are exiting or. Freeway. Right, that makes
Where
sense.
you're pulling in, the trucks are pulling in and if somebody's trying to pull out, the vision triangle is, I think is what you're concerned
Right. Just a question.
There's also going to be, I just don't think there's going to be adequate access from the southern to the northern. They're separated by landscaping as well. So I think that there will be some of those vertical areas right in the center of our landscape plan where the storage will happen. So there will be adequate snow storage in the southern and the north. We'll indicate that.
Yeah, I see what you're, I mean, I get what you're saying completely. You don't want to have to move it all the way around the parking lot to.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that was just going to be the only area.
Do we have a requirement on the islands, Jen?
Yes. It's one for every 24, I think, stalls. 20 or 24.
you're talking about cement island, right?
Yeah, the islands in the parking lot.
Not a growth, not a growth. I mean, these black spots here, are those growths? I mean,
Well, it's an island in the parking lot with a bunch of trees and bushes and shrubs and mulch and stuff.
it just takes a lot to make all that work.
You're able to meet what you need for parking with those islands in there?
With these islands currently, we have a new plan, just shortening up that area that makes it work, yes. So we've kind of shortened up the area, that kind of angled landscaping in the center, lower left-hand portion of our screen to accommodate parking. Matt Sorensen, are you on the call?
Online, yeah. Yep, I'm here.
Matt is with Kimley Horn, our civil engineer. Matt, I know you just recently went through this review based on the wetland delineation. Did you want to highlight anything for the landscaping that you removed and just still meeting code? Do you want to just highlight just kind of your revisions there?
Could you have him, Matt, could you state your name and address real quick too, before you answer that question for the record, please?
Matt Sorensen, 415 Oak Grove Street, Minneapolis, Minnesota, with Kimley Horn. I may have missed that 24, every 24 stalls, but on the landscape specifically, we reviewed the landscape planning in the code, and I think there's a percentage of credits that are needed within 15 feet of the parking field, and the revised plan meets that. So we'll work on addressing the one island every 24 stalls.
I don't know if that's a,
I'm trying to look for what it is.
We're not looking for that.
I think we're trying to
Make it easier.
Make it easier,
Yes.
because it's very difficult to plow around them.
Yeah.
They're a pain.
So the idea would be, having a lot of experience with large parking areas, to eliminate the islands, take the landscaping that you might put in an island, put it around the outside.
Yes.
yes, have a ton of landscaping.
So it's
around the
actually
outside.
a buffer from people going down the street. And forget the islands with landscaping in the middle of your parking area.
Yes.
Yes, and that's what we've done with this latest revision. So it's all around the exterior of that southern parking area. And there's internal islands at the end caps. For kind of a buffer from the drive aisles, but then no internal islands. So we lose those 4 in there that are right around the underground stormwater system call out.
Yep. See those.
So that, but even the 2 to the right. All those up there.
Use that on.
Numbers on mine.
48.
So that underground, oh, there's 2 underground storms.
There's 3 of them, it looks like.
Oh, yeah, 3.
You're not fueling on site? No fuel on site? I'm gonna build a gas station out there.
Right.
I'll be the closest one. I'm gonna be the closest gas station.
Penny less, right? Penny less.
Free lunch.
And was there, oh, I just lost my train of thought.
Yeah, is that what you're still looking for, Jen, if there's?
Yeah, I'm not seeing it, so unless it's in the landscaping. I don't
I just-
remember if it got taken out or
I don't know
not.
if anybody else, I think we've talked about this several times, is they would save with their parking lot. I think that was.
Green Heck Turner.
Very difficult to get around in there now, and it's very difficult.
Mhm.
Well, let alone the longstanding customers that were launching their cars over those curbs. So.
This is a grocery store just down the road that they made them put all the islands, they put islands in there after the fact.
It just says that they need to be within 15. Plants required under this section shall be installed within landscaped islands within the hard or gravel surfaced area or within 15 feet of its edges.
I like Joel's comment of the interior going to the exterior.
Unless otherwise approved by the appropriate site plan approval authority.
Well, I think ultimately it's up to you guys. If you want the islands, great. If you feel you don't need them, I don't think there's gonna be any heartburn here about taking them out.
Just based on how the wetlands came back and the design, just the impact of the design, we had to take them out to keep the van count.
Sure.
I read it
same,
as
so
an
we had
either
to-
or. So it just has to be within 15. So they can either be in islands or they can be on the edge. So
What's that?
that's, like, there's no requirement for islands that I'm seeing on the hard and gravel surfaces. It just says either.
How many bike racks did the code call for?
Based on the number of parking stalls.
Parking.
I think that's something that rec staff to work with a reasonable amount. Obviously, if you have 200 vans here, you guys also drove 200 cars to get there. So you don't need 400 bicycles, right?
It's gonna be a lot with the 170 autos.
You know what I mean though, right? Those 170 people, you can't also add the 170 vans to that number, even though there are parking spaces for both of them. You're not gonna bring 2 bikes to drive 1 van. So, and nobody's gonna ride their bike in January. Unless Mark gives out bonuses.
Yeah, there you go. It'd have to be a hell of an incentive to bring your bike.
You put some in and you have employees crying for more bike racks, you can put some more in.
All right, what's your pleasure? Anybody got anything further?
I would make a motion to approve the site plan as presented with the following changes, to allow the bicycle rack, to add a bike rack and let the number of bicycle racks be determined by staff and the applicant. We will allow the applicant to remove any islands in the parking area as they see fit. Just move that landscaping to the outboard side of the parking lot to meet the points. Allow an exemption for parking additional over the 125% that the code shows. There are no signs shown. I know this is a confidential project, but to allow signage as long as it meets the code and staff approves of it.
It's 5% of the parking. So 5% of the number of stalls is what bike parking is.
Asking that, you were asking that, weren't you?
5% of 400.
Anything in your motion, snow storage?
Motion. Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Pincinel, second by Jordan. On the question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So carried.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Total parking on this thing, Jeff?
Good job, everybody.
430.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
433. 104 bikes, but yeah.
It would need 22 bike racks if you went by.
We'll need parking for 104 bicycles.
5% of the total parking for the
5%.
Yeah,
25.
22 bike racks.
Even still. parking for
Right, that's why I said there was too many.
422 bicycle.
You had to provide parking for 20.
Okay. All right, staff reports. I'm gonna take them individually or?
Let me figure out where they're at. I gave you a new number.
A new what, a new one?
Number 10 is new. That's the big,
Oh.
long, big one that I gave you.
Okay,
We'll do acknowledge 8 and 9.
motion by Pincinel,
Second.
second by Jordan. On the question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, so carried. Staff reports, item number 10, acknowledge quarterly development agreement.
So the one I handed out is updated as of a few hours ago. I'll change again tomorrow. This will be the one that I'll put in the board packet. So it should have everything up to date. I sat down with Roman and talked to Jessica today about some of the TIF the ones from 2022, just to find out where they were at and where she was at with the reimbursement. So that shows you kind of where we are at with all the projects past the new ones coming in. I also going and rolling into that project updates. This is basically for the new ones. It's just an update of what I gave you last month. And so this is kind of where we're at with all the projects that we're currently working on or that are going to come to you. There's the same projects kind of on both. We can go over the memorandum one. I just don't know if you want to just look at this one later. And it just kind of
10.
All right, motion by Pincinel. Second by Deason. On the question. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? So carried. Jen, I do have one quick question.
Okay.
With storage units. What's the status on those?
on Ryan Street.
Yeah, is that the Wiesman ones? Or is that something different?
Oh, no, that's Transport Way. The Ryan Street ones were Jeff Novak.
That's right.
Yeah, so that is also on there.
Have they had anything done over there yet?
No, because he has not signed the development agreement. I just had Mark sign the stormwater agreement today. So we're slowly getting, they don't have their stormwater approved from, I think we just got the NOI from the state on Friday or something.
Okay.
So that's all updated in here.
Because I thought we had a timeline.
They do have a timeline, yeah.
Okay.
But I requested, I sent the development agreement from what I have in here when I sent it. He has not gotten it back to me, so I'm gonna have to reach out again. I reached out last week saying I was still waiting for these, because I haven't given them the approval letter yet.
Sure.
Just because I was waiting for this from them. And I still haven't received a signed copy, so.
Okay.
And Roman is not issuing any building permits until we get at least the signed one from the applicant. Some of them you're gonna see on there that I have to have, I didn't know Mark was gonna be here today. So there's a few that Mark has to sign and Pam, and then I'll send them for recording. But once we get their signatures on them, then I'm moving them over to Roman, so he can get right with them.
To your point, if he's got a deadline of some of this stuff by September or November, he's not gonna make it anyway.
That's where I was going with that.
Right.
I'm not shocked, to be honest.
So yeah, I'll follow up with him, but right now I was trying to get it.
In which case, then does he have to start over or he has to bring it back? Or what does that look like?
Well, he would have to bring it back to you guys, yeah, if he's not moving things. I'll reach out again tomorrow.
Thank you.
But I don't want to do anything without that development agreement, because he's basically been signing that he's doing it to that. So that's actually getting tied, is that your phasing gets tied right to the development.
Okay.
So I guess the big thing on here is that Sean did schedule he has a Kennedy Park master plan and corp public input meeting, and that's going to be 2 Mondays from now on the 26th at 5:30, if anyone is interested in that. So we're basically starting the park planning and the corp plan. So they're going to have an informational or public input meeting on designing the future for Kennedy Park. So that is on Monday, the 26th.
And that is that's a parks meeting, correct?
I think they're doing it at their parks meeting is what I saw. Pam had it in the announcement yesterday, the email that went out. It'll be here, yes. So they're basically starting that corp plan. We will be providing information to you on that because the corp is a part of the comprehensive plan. So you'll be asked to approve that document and approve it into or recommend approval to the board of it going into our comprehensive plan. So you will be involved too. So if you're interested in going and getting your input in there, otherwise Michael and I are a part of that process too. And we can bring back the document. They just finished the survey. We had a meeting. We took their park tours. They're working with Rutler on that. And as part of that, we will be updating the comprehensive plan for the transportation, land use and housing portion. I am gonna forward an email that Roman gave us, and it was part of the UDC, or actually, yeah, ADU that he found over the weekend. It was an interesting article. And I think we're gonna start seeing more and more of those. They're talking about them that millennials can't afford housing right now, so they're in other states, they're actually basically living in their parents' backyards.
If you move out of mom's basement and into the garage in the
Into a garage.
backyard.
Yeah, or a small.
But you can put a bathroom in it.
Yeah, so I think we may see that more and more coming for either, elderly parents who don't necessarily want to be in somebody's house.
Kids today just don't have the same work ethic. There is no work ethic.
Well, and some of it is, we're probably okay here, but I know other housing markets, there's either no housing and they can't get into anything. Or it's too expensive. I mean, I know my daughter's gonna have quite hefty loans coming out of grad school to be a nurse, so. Yeah, so we'll see, but that'll be a discussion topic because we have to look at the housing element of the comp plan. Other than that, we basically went through and I updated all the different projects within TIF 1, TIF 2, and just outside of the TIF. So,
Excuse me. Jen, did we got the presentation that a couple of us went to at the, whatever happened?
so they changed the course of it and they're not asking the communities to adopt it anymore. He went to Marathon County, but I think that was like last month. So I need to get him in here to give the presentation to you guys. He said he would do it for the communities. So, but he just went to Marathon County.
He's taking a job with Marathon County?
No, so Marathon County and all the communities paid for it. The primarily it was Marathon County that paid for that study. They decided to go a different route and they're not asking the communities to actually adopt it. So I have one, I can get you guys a copy and you can look at it. But he said he would come and present, so.
When he presented to us, things have changed so much in that amount of time. That when study, I mean.
I know, it's kind of an ever-changing thing, so that's why I kind of figured we would kind of go off of utilizing that and updating on our own based off of, I mean, we have to go
Is that why
through.
Marathon County is not asking any of the communities to adopt because of the changes? How quickly
I think
it's
so.
changed?
I don't know. They just basically sent us a letter saying that they went a different route.
Because ultimately, things, I mean, the pricing has changed so much, the
Right.
rates, the availabilities.
They kind of turned it into a toolkit that you could use instead of it being something that you adopted. They basically almost did it as like a guidebook that communities could use to choose how they wanted to incorporate some of it into their own communities. So I figured once we got into that I would bring it up more.
So give it a quick, not to take any time, but quick, what are some of the things that he wants to, so there's a presentation that he'll do here. The presentation was pretty quick over at.
I don't know, it would be a different one. It would be the final one. That was just, I think, an overview. I'm not sure, I didn't watch the county board one to see what he was actually presenting on
That
it.
had to be almost a year ago.
It was, yeah, he was
Jim, I
finalizing.
think you and I were at that one.
No, I didn't go to it, but I
Yeah.
read the thing right when it was published, yeah.
Who went? Who was there? Were you there?
He just went to Marathon County within the last couple of months. So I'm not exactly sure what happened.
Sorry. Thank you.
Is that project updates?
Unless they have any questions.
It's okay.
I don't wanna go
We just kind of went from 10 into 11 and I'm like, oh, that must have been
Oh,
project.
yeah, that
updates.
was project.
Okay, perfect.
I like to run them together. They're kind of the same thing.
I know.
Because the older stuff and the newer stuff. This is a little bit more on just the things that we're working on right now, so.
Anybody have anything else for Jen?
I was just gonna add, there was a
an email that was sent to all of you relative to the arrangement we have with Kristen Fish Development Resources back in May. May 24th was the date of an email was sent. Or actually May 23rd. Someone had requested that we give a report on the amount of invoices and up to date anyway with redevelopment resources. And I had explained what that was. I gave you a link to a OneDrive that had copies of all those invoices. So I didn't put a report together this time. I know there was some desire to have a report. Now, when she sends her invoice every month, she does have a list of the activities she had as far as phone calls and so forth relative to what her activities are. So an example of that was in there. We got another invoice here now for May. That was for another 11 hours. Another $1,650. So up until that point, we had a total of 20,265 over 13 months, as I said. I'm not sure what there's some concern maybe with our arrangement. She's happy with our hourly fee. I know, and I think there was a question about who's getting credit necessarily, let's say, or credit for, I guess, recruiting developers. And I think it doesn't necessarily work that way, the way we've had this going, other than maybe her initial contacts or initial outreach to the potential developers on Schofield Avenue for TID 2. I mean, as an example, Raleigh Lockery had approached us before we even had the arrangement with her about a mixed-use development on near Cutoff Road. And that really never went anywhere for almost 2 years, I think. And then he did bring a ask to the village board at the last village board meeting, which was subsequently not approved by the board. So I'm not sure what's happening with that. So, you know, I guess when there are certain developers that come back to her, she's talking with them about what they need to do for satisfying the satisfying how they're meeting the but-for test. Right now, she has been contacted by the developer at Stevens Point for the former Alpine Mobile Home Park property. But that was also listed by a different realtor prior. So, you know, we are working on this kind of collaboratively in a lot of cases. We've been talking with developers initially and then just referring them to her. So I guess as she's explained to Jennifer and I, she's just happy. She apparently gets satisfaction out of helping the village in this case. Now, I guess when it comes to marketing a specific project that we may own, that may be a different story. So that's something the board's going to be taking up at the June meeting here again. So I guess just kind of an overview of what was provided. I don't know if you had any questions about her invoices, or if you just want us to provide a copy of the current month's activity that she gives in her report with her invoice, we can do that too.
Yeah, that would be fine with me. You mentioned the Cutoff Road situation. I was just wondering, did any, I know we had talked about reaching out to Green Deck to see if there was some interest with that land. If we did cut off, and it didn't go through, did anything happen with that?
I guess based on the fact that this application isn't going anywhere, I didn't follow up on that yet, but I can and will.
Well, I guess he owns that property. At some point, he's gonna come up with something, I would think, he'll bring back that may work. If that's already done, and if Green Neck is in fact having some interest there, that would be, I guess, kind of nice to.
I don't think it would be a bad idea to
Have that ahead of time done, so to speak, so that part is. I don't know, that's, maybe I'm
No, that's fine. It's something that I guess with the
I'm sure.
status of the LAC Ray ask, I guess, didn't feel it was urgent, but we can follow.
Fire trucks to access that, to turn everything around.
We have to make some kind of provision in there.
And then there's sewer and water that runs through their ties to, so you'd have to have utility easements in there as well. right?
Yeah, there'd be a utility easement that would stay.
Great. Item number 12, announcements and committee commissioner remarks. Jen, anything?
I don't have any announcements.
Steve?
No one else.
Trev? Gary? Roy? Bill?
No.
Dave?
No.
Jim?
Two things. One, the bike rack requirements, is that something we can bring back to look at? Might not need 22 bike rack spaces. And the same thing for parking. You know, obviously that business or sub-transport or lamers or any of these that use vehicles for their business for, I don't know if we have an exemption or we look at that parking number differently. But it falls in the box and it's not staff estimate to make a judgment call on it.
Process worked pretty good.
For sure.
And that's based on history, you know, so.
Yep.
So I can't tell you how happy I am with the job that staff's been doing
Yeah, for sure.
as we move forward.
I completely agree. And Jen, could you help us just maybe shed some light on what happened at Pick and Save, or how, what are the, just tell us, like, is there a reason why we required them to put so many of those islands in? And it was,
They were creating drive lanes, so I think that's what it was the way they were trying to create. People used to like kind of cross over, so they were trying to define them. So that's where that came up. It probably shouldn't have been done the way that it was done, but that's the way they proposed it.
that, I thought, no.
I don't know. Jared was here.
I believe that's how it started, like it came to us like that and you know, it met code, right? So we
Yeah,
don't
so a lot
say-
of times if it meets code, we're,
I thought they were forced into doing it. That's what I was told. They were required to do it.
I don't know, the code has changed a little bit since then, so I mean.
Yeah, and I was just trying to understand, I mean, obviously you get into some communities, and it's a higher development or higher end development if it was more based off trying to be a, you know, but it is really a pain in the butt to be plowing around and.
Right, and I think it was more because over at where Ace was and where people kind of were coming in, they were trying to just create something that it was more defined. That's where the majority of it was over there, because that you would come in, pull in, and people were cutting across, and so attempting to make it drivable.
Well, I think the only comment I have to Jim's point about the bike racks, our code isn't it's not a one size fits all. It fits most situations, but no matter how hard you try to adjust it, you're always gonna have situations that come up where you have to.
Right.
So if you want to look at it, by all means, we can take a look at it, but I think you look at how many other developments we've had going on right now, it's worked in every other situation except for this one, so.
I think the biggest thing that's happened is, and I think Jen can attest to this, depends upon who's all sitting here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just being honest, right? Jen, you said that in the past, well, this is what planning or this is what board wants, and this is what they're proposing.
Right.
When I understand own businesses, or they have to plow their own parking lot, so they have to do things like that. Then it comes to reality and realistic. But when people aren't doing those things, and it's easy to sit behind a chair and not physically have to deal with it. It's easier for them to follow or just say, yeah, we require this, you know. When you don't have to deal with it or fix it or bust your plow or bust curbs or, I mean, I look at the brand new building here ready for one winter. It gets beat up. That's just one winter, so. And we all look at that and you know, it gets expensive. It's expensive maintaining it and repairing it.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Please.
Second.
Motion by Deason, second by Gurnt on the question. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, so carried.